One of the greatest problems with being young is that you haven't had enough time to experience everything that you are going to experience that is the result of what you've done to yourself. You're simply too young, you're not experienced. You haven't yet had the chance to reap what you've sown. You're old enough to have sown, but you're not old enough to reap, in other words, so that you think that you're doing better than you truly are. And that's a problem because when you're young, you're probably also prideful. Just comes with the age, I guess. You think you know better than you do, which doesn't make sense because you're young, but every young person thinks they're smarter than the adults, than the ones who have age, because, well, they're not walking around with their heads on high. They're a little bit more humble and meek, so you think you're smarter than they. I know how it's like. I was young once. I'm still kind of am, but I'm, praise Papa, getting out of my youth and the foolishness thereof. When you hit your 30s, you really start to experience the consequence of how you've lived your first 3 decades. Whether it be emotional, spiritual, physical, financial, all of the above, really. The fruit of your labor start taking place. Your body start showing signs of weakness and fracture and fatigue and all kinds of troubles. Sure, when you were 16 and 17, you got high off of those pull-ups and those push-ups and you loved showing off how strong you were, trying to do the flagpole with the calisthenics. I did some of those things. And now, I'm 33 years old. Sure, I am feeling old. I messed up my shoulders, doing too many push-ups in the wrong form because I was too smart. I didn't need a trainer. I was smarter than the people who could teach me. So, well, there goes my shoulders, and I did a whole bunch of calisthenic stuff, and well, there goes my back and my shoulder, and I have some hip problems too. Mind you, I'm only 33, but it doesn't take long to ruin yourself. If you do something consistently enough with enough weight, it'll get you. I have friends who lifted weight when they were 9 and 10 and, well, too young, and now they're in their 20s and they're already reaping the consequence of their action. But for most, I think that the most dangerous decade of your life is really that teen age from 12, 13 until really 21, 22, when you're just going through the motions, going through your hormones and your puberty and the adrenaline rush and the social pressure, peer pressure as they call it. And you do all kinds of things that you think are cool because, well, everybody salutes you and the girls adore you and everybody want to be popular at that age. You want to feel like a stud. Well, how do you measure a man? How many women are attracted to him, right? Well, that's what they taught me. Where I grew up, in my school, that's the measure of a man. So you do things, and you don't understand the consequence of what you've done. Now, some people take it a step further and they experiment with all kinds of mind-altering substances. They think it's cool, the cool kids. You go to the party, you pop a pill or two, you take a little this or that. And you've done all of these things in your foolishness of your youth, not realizing just how messed up you will be 5 to 10 years from now. Because all you have to compare yourself to is your friend next to you, who might have done it once or twice before, but it hasn't been enough time to see the consequence. Why don't you go talk to somebody in his late 40s that has done what you're doing, and see if you want their life? Chances are you're not gonna want their life because, well, People who do drugs, it ruins you. It kills your spirit. It ruins your mind. You can't think right. And we see that all the time. Stephen does a lot of work with addicts and druggies and cocaine brains, and they just can't get it together. Can't walk a straight line because you've physically altered your brain. It is a physical damage. If you chop your finger off, you lose a finger, it doesn't grow back. Now, a fingernail might, but not a finger. The brain doesn't fully recover when you put all those chemicals in your body. Same goes for liquor. You drink a little too much, cirrhosis of the liver, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to suffer the rest of your life. All kinds of sicknesses and conditions. You eat too much sugar, you're going to develop diabetes. You don't really recover. You're just a diabetic. And you're going to have to live with it. If you do what I did and hurt your bodies in such a way that it has such a problem healing itself, I have backaches pretty much every day. I know I'm doing all kinds of stretches and exercises and moving and using creams and massage guns and stuff, but crisis management. Is it going to go away? Probably not until I get a new body at the resurrection, because there's a physical damage in my body that is not going to heal, so I just endure the cross that, whether I gave it to myself or not, there's questions about that, right? Genetics surely have something to do with that, but I've caused more harm than good. Excessive working out for what? To look like Arnold Schwarzenegger? Why? Now, I didn't do any of those steroid shots, but you look at people who do. Do you really want their life? Look at them. They look like something diseased that came out of some sick bed that I don't want to touch with a stick. Their skin looks like it's melting on their muscles that are way too pumped up, and their veins look like they've got all kind of stuff flowing through them that is not blood. If you've seen any of these people that took steroids now, 20, 30 years later, you know what I'm talking about. It's not a pretty sight. It's not something you want to see. Now, sure, in your prime, you look all that, right? In your prime, but at what cost? Again, you sow and you reap. It doesn't always happen so quickly. It doesn't happen overnight. Now, if you get to live to be 60 or 70, my grandpa, he used to do a lot of work with heavy tools, cutting metals and stuff, and he didn't have the proper ear protection. He's been deaf for the last decade or two. Didn't happen right away, but after a while, you've done so much damage with all that noise, he can't hear anything. He has hearing aids and he complains that they don't work well. But they work fine. It's his ears that don't work well. And not really his ears, but the whole mechanic with the brain. Well, he did it to himself. Consequence. Now, you might not think you're going to live to be that old, but you don't know. Because time is so tricky and sneaky. You're not going to feel like you've been here 80 years and say, I've lived long enough, I'm ready to die. No, because every day you wake up and it's always that day that you want to be. Now is all you have. And you wake up and you're always in the now. It's never tomorrow. And yesterday doesn't really exist. You're always here, now. And all of a sudden, you're suffering because something that you've done. And you realize, well, I'm not ready to die just yet. I want to live. There's so many things I want to do. But you can't because you've already ruined yourself. You've stolen from your future and now you're living that future. And those things I've given you are really just a small consequences. There are much bigger ones. Spiritually speaking, the things you do, the sins you commit, the people you've offended, the lies you've said, the things you've stolen, the people you've hurt, all the sexual relations you shouldn't have had, things that will come back and ruin you. We see it all the time. Stephen did a message not too long ago about some man that already turned his life around, and all of a sudden, they bring up some sexual escapade for 25 years ago. It happens. You slept with that one girl that was underage, and 30 years later, you already have grandkids, and now you're being sued in court for that relations. It's going to come back to bite you. And don't say it's not going to happen to me, because it will. All those cigarettes that you've smoked, all of that cannabis that you've smoked, the meth, oh, definitely that. All of those drugs, especially in the US, young people. It's always the young people. When Stephen and I were on a bus in Haifa, we talked to a woman who was a social worker. She said 13-year-old girls came already on drugs. 13-year-olds! Stephen spoke to a man in California, now 19, said he started doing drugs when he was 13 too. His friends gave it to him. Stephen knew right away he didn't have a father. No father in the home. 13, already done drugs. There's not much you can do for those people. Their brains are gone now. They already ruined their physical organ. The brain is altered. They're not going to be able to be the same again. Now, sure, there are some constellation prizes, right? You could salvage something, but there's going to be a price. So that's why wisdom says, do not go down that path. We tell you that you reap what you sow so that you learn to sow better seeds. Don't get offended by it. Rejoice. Be grateful. Apply it in your life. Always head towards the light, as much as you can. You're not going to be perfect. Nobody's perfect, except the Lord. But that's not the measure. You do the best you can at every junction that you face. Head towards the light. You're not always going to make the right choice, but as much as you can, so that when it's all said and done, you'll have done more good than bad. You have sown more good seeds than bad. So that when your judgment comes forth, and the scales are presented, you will be in the favor of good and not bad. You don't have to ruin yourself. Just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean you have to. As we often say, if everybody jumped off a roof, would you follow? Well, yes, you probably would. But you don't have to. You can be an outcast. Nothing wrong with that. You don't have to have friends. In this modern age, it's best for you not to have friends, because chances are, if you have friends, they're wicked and they're a bad influence, because that's how society is nowadays. Wicked and bad influence. And if you're the oddball, chances are you're the only one, because there's not many. So if you're that, probably everyone around you is not. So you'd be better off by yourself. Mind your business. You spend time with God. You seek Him wholeheartedly. You sit alone under that tree and sing hymns of praise. You don't need to be friends. You don't need to be a social butterfly hanging around with all those people and these fake followers on social media. That doesn't do anything for your life anyway. You don't need to have all of these followers and people liking your videos for you to feel like you're worth anything. Those devils don't determine your worth. Your Maker does, and He loves you. He made you just the way He wanted you to be. You do not need to change to be approved and accepted. You don't need to be a certain weight or a certain height or a certain skin color or eye color or hair color. That's lies by people who hate themselves, so they make you hate yourself. They tell you have to work out to have this percentage of muscle, to have 6 abs, otherwise you're ugly. That's what they tell you, I know, but it's a lie. You don't need to have 6-pack abs to love yourself or to be loved. You just have to have a good character. You just have to love the Lord, and the right people will love you. You don't need everyone to love you, and you don't want them to either. Why would you want the love of evil people? People who all they care about is your 6-pack abs. You don't want that people. Those are prostitutes and pimps. You don't want that crowd around you. So why would you want to attract them to you? Nothing wrong with a little exercise. It's good to, just be active. Like I said, stretching, a little working out. Keep your core strong to the point where you can stand up straight and, carry your body properly. Hiking, walking daily. But don't be so obsessed about it. Take it to the edge to try to puff yourself up. You're only ruining yourself and stealing from your future, because at the end of the day, all of that muscle will deteriorate and your bones and your ligaments will suffer. And you will have all kinds of problems in your 40s, 50s, and 60s. So be careful. Don't go down that path. Wisdom. You don't have to experience everything in order to learn from experience. Learn from other people's experience. Be wiser than they. They will share and teach you. I share and teach you. Stephen shares and teaches you. He said, hey, I've been down that path. Trust me, you do not want to go down that path. It's not going to end well for you. There's a cost. But will you listen? Only God knows. I pray that you do. For your own good, not mine. I've already been down that path and now I suffer, but you don't have to. So do whatever you want. But you best listen to wisdom.